A single mother was beaten and cast out with her baby, until a millionaire took off his jacket and sighed. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. It was a freezing night in downtown Chicago, the kind of cold that stung every inch of bare skin. The rain had turned into icy needles that slanted sideways through the wind. Streetlights flickered across puddles on the cracked sidewalk, and traffic hissed in the distance. Near an old diner whose neon sign buzzed weakly, a woman stood trembling, clutching a crying baby wrapped in a thin blanket. Her name was Lena Brooks. She was 26 years old, exhausted and soaked to the bone. Her hair clung to her face, her hands raw from the cold. The front door of the small apartment building slammed behind her as a man's voice shouted, "Do not ever come back here. You and that brat can sleep in the street for all I care." A torn grocery bag landed at her feet, spilling formula powder into the dirty puddle. Lena did not fight back. She bent down, picked up the bag, and whispered softly to the baby, "It is all right, sweet pea. Mommy is here." But her voice cracked. She had nowhere to go. Her last paycheck had been 2 weeks late, and her landlord had already threatened eviction. When she lost her job at the bakery for standing up to a manager who would not keep his hands to himself, the little safety net she had vanished overnight. She tried to cover the baby with her own coat, but it was too thin to stop the wind. People passed by without looking, their umbrellas like dark shields. The city kept moving. No one cared about a soaked young mother standing under a broken street lamp. Then headlights slowed. A dark car stopped at the curb. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He looked to be in his mid-30s, tall, with a calmness that did not belong to the storm around them. His suit jacket was already damp from the rain, but his eyes held something Lena had not seen in a long time: kindness. She flinched as he approached, holding her child closer. The man stopped a few feet away and spoke in a low voice, steady but gentle. "Are you all right?" Lena shook her head, unable to answer. Her teeth chattered. The baby's cries rose higher. The man took a step forward, then did something she did not expect. Without a word, he removed his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. It was heavy, warm, and smelled faintly of cedar and clean soap. "You do not have to do that," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I know, but no one deserves to be left in the cold." The moment felt unreal. His voice was calm, almost steadying. For a heartbeat, the world went quiet. Only the rain, the baby's soft hiccup, and the man's coat shielding her from the wind. "Come on," he said after a pause. "There is a cafe across the street. Let us get you both warm." Lena hesitated, glancing at the puddles that separated her from the light of the cafe windows. She wanted to trust him, but years of struggle had made her wary. Still, when she looked down at her baby's pale face, she nodded. They crossed together, their shoes splashing through the cold water. Inside the cafe, the warmth hit her like sunlight. The man asked the waiter for a towel and a cup of hot tea. Then he ordered a small bottle of milk, testing its temperature on his wrist before handing it to her. "Here," he said quietly. "Your son must be hungry." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, sir. I do not even know your name." He hesitated for a moment before replying, "Ethan, just Ethan." She smiled weakly. "I am Lena." Ethan nodded, then looked toward the window, where the rain still hammered against the glass. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" Her silence was answer enough. He reached into his wallet, took out a folded piece of paper, and slid it across the table. It was a hotel receipt. "Room 204. The night is already paid for. Get some rest." Lena blinked in disbelief. "You do not even know me." "Sometimes," Ethan said, "you do not need to know someone to do the right thing." She wanted to protest, to return the paper, but exhaustion washed over her. She whispered, "Thank you, truly." He nodded once, stood, and left before she could say more. Outside, the rain swallowed him whole, leaving only the faint warmth of his jacket and the echo of his kindness. That night, in the small hotel room, Lena laid her baby down on a clean white sheet. She hung the man's jacket on the chair, and stared at it for a long time. The label inside read, E. Stone. She had no idea who he really was, or that this single act of compassion would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, sunlight slipped weakly through the curtains of the small hotel room. The city outside was quiet. The sound of passing cars softened by the glass. Lena opened her eyes slowly, startled for a moment by the warmth around her. It had been weeks since she had woken up anywhere clean, anywhere that did not smell like damp clothes and worry. Her baby was still asleep beside her, breathing softly, one tiny hand clutching the edge of the blanket. She turned her head toward the chair where the man's jacket hung. The fabric had dried overnight, the faint scent of cedar still clinging to it. She ran her fingers along the edge of the collar, whispering to herself, Ethan. The name felt unreal, like something out of a story she had once believed in, but forgot. Lena sat up carefully and reached for her bag. Inside was a few dollars, a pacifier, and a folded resume printed on wrinkled paper. She had been carrying it for months, hoping for a chance. Maybe today would be different. She glanced at the receipt Ethan had left behind. It listed Stone Suites Hotel, and a signature E. Stone. She wondered if that was really his name, or just a coincidence. By noon she had checked out, thanking the receptionist who smiled kindly but asked no questions. Outside, the sky was pale gray again, heavy with clouds. The wind cut through her thin coat as she walked down the sidewalk, pushing an old stroller she had found behind a shelter. Her son whimpered once, and she smiled faintly, humming to keep him calm. It is all right, Noah. Mommy will find something today. The city buzzed with the rhythm of survival. Men in suits hurried past, phones pressed to their ears. Delivery trucks rumbled over potholes. The smell of roasted coffee drifted from a nearby cafe, where warm laughter spilled onto the street. Lena hesitated outside the glass door, tempted to step inside, but she counted her coins again and turned away. At the next block stood a bakery with a help-wanted sign taped to the window. She approached it carefully, hope flickering in her chest. Inside, the manager took one look at her and the stroller and shook his head before she could speak. We need full-time staff who can stay late. Sorry. She nodded, murmured, thank you, and left. The rejection stung less than it used to. She was getting used to it, though she hated that thought. The afternoon turned colder. She ducked under a small bus shelter, shielding Noah from the wind. The stroller's wheels squeaked each time she rocked it back and forth. A man passing by dropped a few coins into her hand without looking at her. She whispered, God bless you, though she was not sure if he heard. Her stomach ached with hunger, but she pushed the feeling aside. She had a half-empty bottle of milk for Noah and a stale roll from last night. That would be enough. It had to be. As dusk approached, Lena spotted a bulletin board near a library entrance. Among the flyers for music lessons and lost pets, one caught her eye. Hiring housekeeping staff, Stone Industries headquarters, apply in person. The name struck her. Stone Industries. The same word printed inside Ethan's jacket. Her pulse quickened. Could it be related to him? For a moment, she hesitated. The idea seemed ridiculous. A company like that would never hire someone like her. But something inside whispered, try. She pressed her palm against her son's back, feeling his small heartbeat. We are going to make it, baby, one way or another. That night, she took the long bus ride across the city, clutching her resume and Ethan's receipt. The rain began again, soft at first, then harder. The lights of downtown shimmered on the wet glass of tall buildings. When the bus stopped in front of a modern tower of steel and glass, she stepped off, breath catching in her throat. The sign above the revolving doors read, Stone Industries. Security guards stood inside, their uniforms neat, their smiles distant. Lena hesitated at the threshold, then squared her shoulders. She pushed the door open and stepped into the lobby. The air inside was warm and smelled faintly of polished wood and coffee. Marble floors gleamed under soft golden lights. A receptionist looked up from her desk. Can I help you, ma'am? Yes, Lena said, her voice trembling slightly. I saw the notice about the housekeeping position. I would like to apply. Of course. Please fill out this form, the receptionist said kindly, sliding a clipboard across the counter. Lena took it with both hands, careful not to drop the papers while balancing her baby on her hip. Her pen moved slowly across the lines. Name. Address. Emergency contact. She paused, unsure what to write, then left the box blank. When she finished, she handed the clipboard back. The receptionist glanced at the stroller, then at Lena's weary face, and smiled softly. "You can wait over there. Someone will see you soon." Lena sat in the corner, rocking the stroller gently. She did not notice the tall man stepping out of the elevator behind her, speaking quietly to his assistant. He paused mid-sentence when his eyes caught the familiar outline of a woman with a baby wrapped in a gray blanket. For a long moment, Ethan Stone just stood there, frozen. The woman he had helped in the storm was sitting in his building, filling out a form for a housekeeping job. He watched her tuck a strand of hair behind her ear and whisper to the baby. Something inside him shifted. He turned to his assistant and said quietly, "Cancel my next meeting." "Yes, Mr. Stone." Ethan took a slow breath, then walked toward her. Lena looked up, startled. Her eyes widened as she recognized him, the stranger with the jacket. She rose halfway to her feet, unsure what to say. Ethan smiled, the same calm, gentle smile she remembered from that night. "Good afternoon, Lena. I believe we have met before." Her heart pounded. The room seemed to tilt for a second. You are Mr. Stone?" He nodded once. "Yes, and I think we should talk." In that instant, Lena realized the man who had given her warmth in the storm was far more than she had imagined. What she did not know yet was that this meeting, inside the polished walls of Stone Industries, was about to change everything once again. Lena followed Ethan through the long corridor of Stone Industries, her steps unsteady, her heartbeat loud in her ears. The polished floors reflected the glow of overhead lights, and the air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and ink. Every few feet, employees glanced up from their desks, whispering softly as the CEO himself guided a nervous woman with a baby toward his private office. Ethan opened the door and gestured for her to enter. "Please, have a seat," he said gently. His office overlooked the city skyline, walls of glass stretching from floor to ceiling. The gray light of late afternoon poured in, turning everything to silver. Lena hesitated before sitting, holding Noah close. She felt out of place, like a shadow in a world of sharp suits and quiet power. "Mr. Stone," she began carefully, "I did not know this was your company. I swear I was not trying to—" Ethan raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "It is all right. I know you were not." He took a seat across from her, his voice calm but thoughtful. "When I saw you in the lobby, I realized I never even asked your name that night." She looked down, adjusting the baby's blanket. "It is Lena Brooks, and this little one is Noah." Ethan smiled faintly, the tension easing in his shoulders. "Noah," he repeated softly, as if testing the name. The baby blinked up at him with wide eyes. For a moment, Ethan's expression shifted, something sad, something distant. He cleared his throat. "I saw your application. We can find you something suitable here, if you want the job. It will come with stable hours and health benefits for you and your son." Lena's eyes widened. "You would really hire me, after everything?" Ethan leaned back slightly. "Why not? You need a chance, and I believe in giving people that." Her throat tightened. Gratitude and disbelief tangled in her chest. "Thank you. I promise I will not let you down." He nodded. "You do not have to promise anything. Just do your best. That is all anyone can ask." There was a quiet moment between them, filled with the soft hum of the city below. Then Ethan stood and walked to a shelf behind his desk. He reached for a small picture frame and set it face down. "You reminded me of someone," he said quietly. "My wife and I lost our son 3 years ago. His name was also Noah." Lena's breath caught. She whispered, "I am so sorry." Ethan looked out the window, his jaw tightening. "Grief changes you, makes you forget how to see people as people. That night in the rain, when I saw you holding your child, something in me woke up again." She had no words, only silence. Outside, the city lights flickered to life, one by one. He turned back to her and forced a small smile. "You can start tomorrow morning. Human Resources will set everything up. For tonight, please stay at the same hotel. It is already arranged." Lena blinked, trying to find her voice. "You did not have to—" "I know," he said simply. "But I wanted to." When she left the office, the air outside felt different. The same city, the same streets, but lighter somehow. The night wind still carried the chill of November, yet she could feel warmth rising in her chest. For the first time in a long while, the word hope did not feel foolish. Later that night, in the hotel room, Noah slept peacefully. Lena sat by the window, the city lights glowing like a sea of stars below. She reached into the pocket of Ethan's jacket, which still hung beside her bag, and found something she had not noticed before, a folded sketch torn from a notebook. It was a child's drawing, simple and bright. A stick-figure man held hands with a smaller figure under a sun drawn with looping rays. Beneath it, in uneven letters, were the words, Noah and Daddy. Lena traced the drawing with trembling fingers. It must have belonged to Ethan's son. She felt the ache of his loss and the weight of his kindness all at once. She whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you, Mr. Stone." The next morning, Lena reported for her first day at Stone Industries. She was assigned to the lower floor as part of the maintenance crew. The supervisor, a kind woman named Teresa, handed her a uniform and a schedule. "You can keep the baby in the daycare downstairs," Teresa said. "It is free for employees." Lena's heart swelled. She tucked Noah into a small carrier and followed Teresa through the bright corridors. When they reached the daycare, the smell of crayons and laughter filled the air. The sight made her eyes sting. "It is perfect," she whispered. As she started her work, wiping desks and dusting windows, she caught glimpses of Ethan passing by on occasion. He never treated her like an employee to be pitied, only nodded in quiet respect. Every evening, when she finished her shift, she would take Noah to the small park nearby. The sound of leaves rustling, the glow of lampposts, and the laughter of other children filled the air. Life was far from easy, but it was beginning to make sense again. Still, every time she looked at the folded drawing in her pocket, she felt a strange connection she could not explain. She carried it with her everywhere, a reminder of the night a stranger shared his coat, and of the unseen bond between two people who had both lost something they could never replace. Neither of them knew it yet, but that piece of paper would one day reveal a truth that would change everything about kindness, about fate, and about love that grows quietly in the space between broken hearts. Weeks passed, and winter gave way to the soft breath of spring. Inside Stone Industries, the rhythm of life moved fast, phones ringing, meetings echoing, coffee machines hissing, but for Lena, every day felt like a quiet miracle. She had a steady job, a warm room, and a safe place for her son. For the first time in years, she no longer woke up afraid of tomorrow. Every morning she arrived early, tying her hair neatly and checking her reflection in the glass doors before stepping inside. She worked with focus, polishing the floors, organizing supplies, keeping the offices spotless. Most of the staff greeted her kindly, unaware that the CEO himself had brought her here. Ethan often passed through the halls, nodding to employees, his presence calm but commanding. When their eyes met, he always gave her a small smile, professional, gentle, but filled with something unspoken. At first, Lena thought it was simple gratitude or pity, but as days turned into weeks, she began to sense there was more behind that look. One afternoon, a small accident changed everything. Lena was cleaning the marble staircase near the conference wing when her mop bucket tipped over, water spreading across the steps. She rushed to wipe it dry, her hands trembling as she knelt on the cold stone. Behind her, a voice spoke softly. "Careful, it is slippery." She turned and saw Ethan standing there, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. She froze. "Mr. Stone, I am so sorry. I did not mean to—" "It is all right," he interrupted, his tone light. He crouched beside her, picking up the mop handle she had dropped. "Let me help." She blinked, stunned. "You should not." "I should not what? Help clean up a mess? I make plenty of them myself." The unexpected warmth in his voice made her laugh for the first time in a long while. For a moment, the tension between boss and employee dissolved, replaced by something simple and human. As they stood, their hands brushed. Both froze, startled by the small contact. Then Ethan stepped back, clearing his throat. "You have done good work here, Lena. I want you to know that." "Thank you, sir," she said softly. "I am just grateful to have a chance." That evening, as the sun dipped low behind the skyscrapers, Ethan watched from his office window as Lena crossed the plaza below, pushing Noah's stroller. The wind caught her hair, lifting it gently. Something about the sight filled him with peace and fear. He had not expected to feel this way again. Inside her small apartment, Lena laid Noah to sleep and sat at the table, counting her earnings. They were modest, but enough to cover rent and food. She smiled, whispering, "We are getting there, baby." Still, her mind drifted to the man who had changed everything with a single act of kindness. The next day, an announcement spread through the building. Stone Industries would be hosting a charity gala to raise funds for families in need. Lena listened quietly as coworkers chatted excitedly. Teresa, her supervisor, nudged her. "You should come. Mr. Stone encourages all departments to join. It would mean a lot to him." Lena hesitated. "I do not belong in a place like that." Teresa smiled. "You belong more than you think." Later that night, after putting Noah to bed, Lena took out her one good dress, a simple navy blue one she had mended herself. She looked at her reflection and whispered, "Just for one night." Zo. At that same hour, Ethan stood in his office, staring at the invitation card for the gala. His reflection in the glass looked tired but thoughtful. He whispered under his breath, "Maybe it is time to stop hiding behind the company name." Neither of them knew that this event, meant to celebrate generosity, would soon uncover a truth that had been waiting patiently beneath the surface, a truth about who Ethan Stone really was, and why fate had brought Lena back into his life. The night of the charity gala arrived, and the grand ballroom of Stone Industries shimmered under crystal chandeliers. The music was soft, the laughter polished, and the air carried the scent of roses and expensive perfume. Lena stood near the entrance, holding her small clutch tightly, feeling completely out of place among the suits and gowns that sparkled beneath the lights. She had never been to an event like this. Her dress, though simple, looked elegant under the warm glow, and she had pinned her hair carefully. She whispered to herself, "Just smile and stay near the back." But her heart beat fast when she spotted Ethan across the room. He was speaking with board members, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. Yet when his eyes found hers across the crowd, his expression softened instantly. For a moment, it felt as if the noise around them disappeared. He gave her a small nod, subtle enough that no one else noticed. Teresa appeared at Lena's side and whispered, "You see that? He never looks at anyone like that. You must have made quite an impression." Lena blushed, shaking her head. "I am just grateful for this job. That is all." But deep down, she felt something unfamiliar, an ache that was both warm and frightening. As the evening went on, she helped quietly near the charity tables, handing out donation cards and smiling at guests. Noah was safe at the daycare, asleep, giving her a rare night to breathe. She did not notice Ethan approaching until he spoke softly behind her. "Enjoying yourself?" She turned, startled, then smiled. "I am trying to. It is beautiful." He glanced at the crowd, then at her. "It is more beautiful because you are here." Her cheeks flushed. "You should not say things like that, Mr. Stone." "Maybe not," he said gently, "but I mean them. Before she could reply, an announcement came from the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Ethan Stone." The applause rose around them as he stepped forward. Lena watched from the edge of the crowd, pride swelling in her chest. Ethan spoke about compassion, about helping families rise again. His voice carried a quiet sincerity that silenced the room. When he ended, he looked directly toward her and said, "Kindness does not begin in boardrooms or end with donations. It begins with one act, one moment when you choose to care." Their eyes met, and for the first time, Lena felt she was not just a survivor in his story. She was part of it. Neither of them noticed the photographer capturing that exact moment, a photograph that, by morning, would spread across headlines and ignite the storm that would test them both. The next morning, Lena woke to the sound of her phone buzzing nonstop. At first, she thought it was a wrong number. But when she opened the message from a coworker, her heart dropped. A photo of her and Ethan from the gala filled the screen, his hand on her shoulder, their eyes locked, smiles soft and unguarded. The headline above it read, "CEO Ethan Stone's secret affair with company employee." Her hands began to shake. She scrolled through comment after comment, each one crueler than the last. Words like gold digger and homewrecker cut deep into her chest. She closed the phone, pressing it against her heart as if that could make it all stop. By the time she reached work, whispers followed her through the halls. Some people avoided her eyes, others stared too long. When she arrived at her cleaning station, her supervisor Teresa met her with a pained expression. "Lena, I am so sorry. Human Resources wants to see you." Lena's stomach turned cold. She nodded and walked down the corridor. Inside the office, a representative sat behind a polished desk. "Until this matter is cleared up, we have to suspend you temporarily," the woman said, avoiding Lena's gaze. "There are complaints from the press. It is company protocol." "I did nothing wrong," Lena whispered. "I know," Teresa said gently from the doorway. "But right now, the company is under pressure." Tears stung Lena's eyes, but she refused to cry. She gathered her things and left, the stares of strangers burning against her back. Outside, the sky was gray again. The wind was sharp, like the night she had met Ethan. She walked for blocks, pushing Noah's stroller, her thoughts tangled in fear and shame. She could not return to the hotel. Reporters had already gathered outside. Later that evening, Ethan sat in his office, his phone ringing endlessly. His public relations manager spoke fast, trying to contain the scandal. "Sir, you must deny any personal connection with her." Ethan's voice hardened. "No, I will not." "Then you risk everything. The board, the investors, the foundation." He looked out the window at the city below, the lights blurred by rain. "If protecting her costs me everything, then so be it." For the first time in years, Ethan felt anger not for loss, but for injustice. Somewhere across the city, Lena sat in a dim cafe holding Noah close, whispering, "We will get through this." Neither of them knew that the truth behind the photo and the people who had leaked it was darker than a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate plan to destroy Ethan Stone's name, and Lena had become the perfect target. The city's skyline glowed faintly through a curtain of rain that refused to end. Days had passed since the scandal broke, and Ethan's company trembled under the weight of the headlines. Investors demanded explanations. The board of directors called emergency meetings. But through it all, Ethan refused to speak a single word against Lena. He sat at his desk, the photo from the gala printed across every newspaper on his table. His assistant entered quietly, holding a folder. "Sir, we found something you should see." Oh. Inside were emails, anonymous messages sent to gossip outlets, with attachments from inside Stone Industries. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Who sent these?" "Most likely someone from the executive floor," his assistant said. "We traced the access to Mr. Harlan's department." Harlan Finch. Ethan's longtime rival within the company, the man who had coveted his position for years. Ethan had suspected him of manipulating projects before, but this was different. This was personal. "Get me the full file," Ethan said, his voice low, "and contact our legal team." Across town, Lena sat in a small public library, her baby asleep beside her. She had been hiding there for hours, afraid to go home, afraid to be seen. Every headline replayed in her mind like a cruel echo. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I should just disappear." But then she looked at Noah's tiny face, peaceful and innocent, and she found her strength again. That evening, Ethan called her for the first time since the scandal began. His voice through the phone was steady, though she could hear the exhaustion behind it. "Lena, listen to me. Do not believe what they are saying. This was planned. Someone wanted to hurt us both." "Why me?" she asked softly. "I am nobody." "You are not nobody," Ethan said firmly. "You stood for something I forgot, kindness, decency. That makes you dangerous to people who live off power." Tears filled her eyes. "I do not want to ruin your life." "You saved it," he said simply. "Now let me return the favor." The next morning, Ethan walked into the boardroom, every seat filled, every gaze sharp. Cameras flashed outside as reporters swarmed the hallway. One of the directors spoke coldly. "Mr. Stone, the company demands a statement. Did you or did you not engage in a personal relationship with this woman?" Ethan stood tall, his voice carrying through the room. "Yes, I helped her. A single mother who was thrown into the street with her child. I gave her my jacket, a room for one night, and a job to rebuild her life. If that makes me guilty, then so be it." The room went silent. Another director hissed. "Do you realize what you are admitting to? You are handing them your reputation." Ethan looked around the table. My reputation means nothing if I stay silent while a good woman is destroyed. Later that day, he held a press conference in the lobby. Cameras lined up as he stepped to the microphone. Rain streaked down the windows behind him. His voice was clear, unwavering. Kindness is not a scandal. It is a choice. I did what any decent person should have done, and I will not apologize for it. The crowd murmured. The reporters fired questions, but Ethan raised his hand and continued. To those spreading lies, I say this truth has a way of finding light. At that very moment, his assistant handed him the final report. Ethan opened it and displayed a printed email on the screen behind him. The evidence was undeniable. The leak had come from Harlan Finch's account. Gasps filled the room. The press erupted with flashes, the sound deafening. Ethan's gaze was steady. Justice does not need to shout, he said. It just needs to stand. Across the city, Lena watched the live broadcast on a small television in the cafe where she had taken refuge. Her hands trembled, her heart swelling with relief and pride. For the first time since the storm began, she whispered his name, not in fear but in gratitude. Outside, the rain finally began to ease, leaving the streets washed clean, as if the city itself had been waiting for the truth to be spoken aloud. The storm had passed, but the city still glistened with the memory of rain. Days after Ethan's public statement, everything began to change. The headlines shifted from accusation to admiration. Ethan Stone defends kindness, one article read. Another said, CEO chooses integrity over image. For the first time in weeks, Lena's name was mentioned, not with malice, but with respect. Still, she kept to herself, unsure if it was truly over. She was staying in a small apartment arranged quietly by Teresa, her old supervisor, who had refused to abandon her. Each night, Lena sat by the window, watching Noah sleep, wondering if she would ever have the courage to face Ethan again. One morning, a knock came at her door. When she opened it, a courier stood there holding a large white envelope sealed with the Stone Industries insignia. Inside was a letter in Ethan's handwriting. Lena, we are rebuilding something new here, something better. I would like you to be part of it. Come to the main office tomorrow at 10 in the morning. There is something I want to show you. Ethan. Her hands trembled as she folded the letter. The next day, she dressed simply, wearing the same navy blue dress from the gala, the one she had carefully mended again. She carried Noah in her arms and made her way downtown. When she entered the Stone Industries lobby, the receptionist greeted her with a warm smile. Good morning, Miss Brooks. Mr. Stone is expecting you. Ethan was waiting in the central hall, not in his usual suit but in a plain gray sweater. He looked at her and smiled, the exhaustion replaced by calm pride. Come, he said softly. There is something I want you to see. He led her into a large conference room that had been transformed completely. On the wall hung a new banner that read, Second Chance Program, Empowering Single Parents. Dozens of employees were setting up tables with brochures and posters, preparing for a press event. Lena turned to him in disbelief. What is this? This, Ethan said, is what you inspired. A program that will help mothers and fathers like you find work, childcare, and dignity. You reminded me that success means nothing if it does not lift others with it. Her eyes filled with tears. You did all this? Because of me? Because of you, he said gently. And because of what you taught me. Kindness is not weakness. It is courage. At that moment, the doors opened, and reporters entered, cameras ready. Ethan stood beside Lena and spoke clearly. This is Miss Lena Brooks, the first participant and now coordinator of our Second Chance program. Her strength and grace are proof that one act of compassion can change a life and a company. The flash of cameras filled the room, but this time Lena did not hide. She smiled, holding Noah close, her heart steady. For the first time, the attention did not feel like judgment. It felt like justice. After the event, Ethan found her standing near the window, watching the city below. You were amazing, he said quietly. Lena turned to him, her voice soft but certain. I just told the truth. He smiled. So did I. They stood there for a long moment, no words needed. The city stretched out before them, washed clean, alive again. Lena looked down at her son and then back at Ethan. He finally has a world worth growing up in, she whispered. Ethan nodded. Because his mother built it. Oh. As they left the room, sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in days, pouring across the glass floors of Stone Industries. It touched the banner above them, the words "Second Chance," glowing as if the world itself was breathing again. A full year passed, and the Second Chance program had grown far beyond what anyone expected. Dozens of families found new jobs, homes, and hope through the project. The building that once echoed with quiet business meetings now carried the sound of laughter, the kind that came from people beginning again. On a bright spring afternoon, Stone Industries hosted an anniversary celebration in the same hall where the program had first been announced. Lena stood at the podium, a microphone in her trembling hand. The audience filled with employees, families, and news cameras. Noah sat in the front row beside Teresa, waving proudly. Lena took a breath, her voice steady but emotional. 1 year ago, I stood here as someone who had lost everything. I did not have a home. I did not have faith in people. But one stranger gave me a coat in the rain, and that simple act reminded me that kindness still exists. Today, that kindness has become hundreds of new beginnings. Applause filled the room. Ethan stood at the side of the stage, his eyes never leaving her. She continued softly. Kindness saved my dignity, but it also saved my heart. So, to Mr. Stone and to every person who believes in second chances, thank you. Ethan stepped forward, holding something wrapped in white cloth. He smiled as the audience grew quiet. Lena, he said gently, you once returned this to me when you thought our paths would never cross again. He unwrapped the cloth, revealing the same jacket he had placed on her shoulders that cold night long ago. I kept it, because it reminded me that doing what is right can change everything. But I think it belongs to you. Lena's eyes shimmered. She took the jacket carefully, pressing it to her chest. It belongs to both of us, she whispered. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small framed photo, the drawing of Noah and Daddy, the one Lena had found months before. It was now restored and signed at the bottom, in memory of kindness. He looked at her with a quiet smile. You and Noah gave me back the family I thought I lost. The audience rose to their feet, clapping, many with tears in their eyes. Noah ran up to them, laughing, reaching for Ethan's hand. Ethan lifted him easily, and the boys' laughter filled the hall. Lena looked at them both, her heart full. We found our second chance, she said softly. Ethan nodded. No, Lena, we built it together. Ah. As the applause swelled, sunlight poured through the tall windows, lighting the three of them standing side by side, the man who gave his coat, the woman who found her strength, and the child who reminded them both what love truly meant. And that is how one act of compassion turned strangers into a family, proving that kindness, once given, never really ends.